Dangerous chemical disposal area. Keep out. Look at that. Another 50 cal bullet. I just about fell in this thing. How is it going, everyone? Casey here with the Coyote Works channel. Heading out on another adventure. This time it's going to be a little bit different adventure that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. Really unique landscape out here, really harsh, but in spite of how harsh and inhospitable it is out here, there were still settlers around the late 1800s, early 1900s that tried to make a go of it out here. So we're going to stumble across some remains of that. There's some military history out across this country back around World War II. We're going to see if we can't find some evidence of some of that military history that happened out across here. One of the things that I'm doing on this trip is I'm going to swing by and look at a piece of property that might be an option for acquisition for some future ventures that I think you guys will be excited about. But another thing we're going to do is we're going to go out and we're going to visit the site of this chemical disposal area, which has got a pretty interesting little story behind it. And it's just an example of some of the strange things that you can find out here in the middle of the desert. And just like that, our tires are on dirt. So with a little luck, we won't touch pavement again for the next couple of days, and we'll probably get just a little ways off the highway and then start doing little walks out here to see if I can find any sign of history out here. So what I'm going to be looking for out here is going to be like bomb fragments, 50 caliber shell casings, maybe 50 caliber bullets, anything that indicates that military history out here, plus all the typical looking for signs of Native American occupation and any homestead activity. So a lot of things to look for out here. All right, so let's jump out here real quick. And this is another thing that's really interesting about this country out here is one thing that's pretty characteristic of it, these sand dunes out here. So you get these rows of sand dunes with these little valleys in between them. And there's a lot of artifacts that can be stumbled across inside these sand dunes. Surprisingly, there's a lot of wildlife in here. Snakes, rabbits, usually a pretty good population of jackrabbits in here. And then a lot of small like rodents and stuff, kangaroo rats, things like that. Huh, check this out. It's pretty massive coyote scat right there. And a rusty piece of metal there. Make sure there's not a rattlesnake coiled up underneath there. I don't see one. Was this an old piece of something left over from a military vehicle that was convoying out across this area when they were doing exercises? Is it off of an old homesteader's truck back in the 20s or the 30s? Who knows? And we're getting over close to where there's a map marker on the 1960s USGS map for a well. So I wanted to go check that out because number one, I think it could possibly be a homestead site. But number two, if there's a well there, it probably means there's water relatively close to the surface for most of the year. And it would have been a place where Native American activity would have been concentrated too. I see these grove of trees. I'm not sure what they are yet. I think they might be Russian olive trees, but man, hiking up and down those dunes, I know from the camera they don't look very steep, but it's not easy hiking out across this. Oh yeah, a little desert oasis. You know what's interesting is I can hear water in there. A little bird right there. God, what a cool little oasis. These Russian olive trees here, I bet these were planted here by the homesteaders. Look at this little dam right there. That's been in there for a long time. So it looks like the homesteaders, or someone, I'm guessing it was the homesteaders, made this little pool right here. Out behind me, we just have this harsh expanse of alkali and dunes. And then we just have this little oasis right in here. Almost back to the Jeep. I can see it. The roof sticking up above the sagebrush up there. Ah, that's a good looking Jeep right there, isn't it? And I love that thing. All right, guys, we're standing right in about the middle of that piece of property. So it's literally a couple of 100 acres of these dunes out here. You can see up behind me, those dunes back up there. There's a lot of low areas in between the dunes to camp in. So looks like the property is partially fenced. There's this structure right here. I'm not sure what it is. It almost looks like some kind of a livestock pen or something. But this looks like it would be a good spot to kind of camp, base camp at. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but we got some artifacts glittering in the sand here. So maybe that's a sign. The natives sure appreciated this site. And back in the day, the edge of that lake would have been right out there, right where you can see the white area. That's the playa out there. And we're kind of right on the edge of where that lake would have been. We're going to be on this property for a little while. This road goes kind of right through it, but I don't know how much time I'll spend. I probably won't videotape a lot more of it because if it ends up coming together as part of the new adventure that over time I'll be sharing more with you guys about, then I don't want to spoil all the surprises of it. Yeah, so far the property looks good, and if it all comes together, you guys will be hearing more about the new venture, and you guys will all have a chance to come out here and see it and enjoy it a little bit, because we'll be having some camp outs and some events out here. All right, found another homestead. This is a new one for me, but this is the root cellar here. There was the door into it. The roof has collapsed, but you can see in here the stonework from it. And then over there, there's a dig out too, and I'm thinking that may have actually been the house, but this is interesting to me here. There's a lot of wire and trash in there, but you can see a little bit of the wall over there. This is hard country to find any artifacts or treasure in though, because all these sand dunes constantly shift, cover stuff up, and then you got this brush that just gets thick and covers everything on the ground. So yeah, this looks like it might have been a old dump site. All right, so you can see the remains of some of the old corrals over there. I'm running lean on daylight, so I'm gonna go ahead and head back to the Jeep. This sure is beautiful out here, and you can definitely understand why a homesteader would have parked a little homestead here. So I'm running out of day really fast, but I saw a little bit of trash, so I'm going to take just a quick minute and walk around this site here, because man, it is grown over, but these are the kind of places where cool stuff hides, where cool little pieces of history hide, is where it's more difficult for other people to find it. Wow guys, look at this. This would have just been a gorgeous bottle. Look at that aqua tint. Got a lot of metal trash in here. There's a pile of boards. So there was definitely a homestead in here. Some rusty old metal down there. Well, we're gonna run out of light probably before we track the whole thing down tonight. So tomorrow we'll have to come back and hit this spot. That's some kind of a, I'm thinking that might be a piece of an old car. Look at this. All right, here's definitely a root cellar. Wow. Yeah, and we got stone up here, probably a foundation, so okay, cool. This will be another homestead for us to come back to tomorrow. All right, guys, I had to get you out and show you one more thing. Look at this. I just about fell in this thing. I'm not sure if it's a privy or a well, but see this ring of rocks? Then it goes down inside there. I'm thinking it's a well, the way that hand-stacked rock is all around it. All right, not a moment too soon. Found a spot to camp here. Actually, I think going to be a really nice spot. I'm tucked in behind these dunes. I should have a little bit of shelter from the wind. I'm going to kind of kick butt and get my camp set up, but this will only take me a couple of minutes. Yeah, boy, it's cooling off fast too. Cooling off fast and getting dark fast. So first thing I'm going to do, probably pull out my table and chair, and then I'm going to set up my ready light too. Yeah, this new ready light is really handy. Boom. Yep, we got light. Perfect. All right, there we go. That's all set up. I'm gonna go ahead and stand up the rooftop tent. And this thing is a breeze. This is the new generation of the Evolution series. I'm gonna get my kitchen out, figure out what I'm gonna do for dinner tonight. This is that new Front Runner Pro Pack that I got from the boys up at Overland. Some biscuits and gravy. Yeah, they loaded me up with some of these peak refuel meals, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I've got a few things to cook tonight. Boy, I tell you though, I'm tired enough. I'm on the fence. I almost feel like just throwing in a Mountain House meal and calling it good. But I know you guys like to see me cook something a little bit more than that, so I probably will. All right, before I get cooking, I'm just going to sit a minute, have a little hint, and enjoy this little spot right here. But boy, I tell you guys, this time of year, man, things start cooling off quick. I'm going to have a little bit of a, let's see, what am I drinking tonight? Peach Hint. All right, for my appetizer here, we're going to have, I've got some fresh green beans here, and at home, I put these in a Ziploc bag, dusted them with some olive oil and some garlic salt, and now I'm just going to lightly pan fry them, just to heat them up and soften them up just a little bit. Ah, that's perfect. Little finger food. Yeah, those are nice just with that touch of garlic and salt on them. Kind of a redneck country boy edamame. So that was a nice little appetizer, but now let's get to cooking the main course. So for the main course, what I've got is I've got some fresh ground, fresh prepared bratwurst. These come from one of the local meat markets that I shop at sometimes. We're going to cook up a couple of these brats. And then I've got some roasted red potatoes. Basically what I did was I boiled them at home, and then I chopped them up, and I mixed them up with some garlic and some sea salt and a few other things. I think some rosemary and some things like that. So what I'll do is I'll cook up the bratwurst, and then I'll toss the potatoes in the pan, and we'll have potatoes and bratwurst. Oh, look at that, guys. That is going to be amazing. Just a little bit browned on the bottom, that's perfect. And the potatoes are just a little bit crispy. All right, guys, this looks amazing. Those are some really good brats. Another real simple camp meal, but extremely delicious. Oh wow, my belly's full, and I'm just relaxing a little bit listening to, it's so quiet out here tonight. Usually you hear at least a few animals. Ah, and I know I usually like to do this around the campfire, but I just wanted to take a minute to thank everyone who's kicked a couple of bucks into the gas and tire fund by clicking on the PayPal donate link in the description of the videos down below. Man, I really appreciate those contributions. They really help keep me going. They help offset the cost of the cameras and the fuel and all the stuff that goes into the editing and the producing the videos for you guys. So again, really appreciate all those contributions to the Gas and Tires Fund. If you want to make a monetary contribution to my channel, that link is always in the description down below my videos, and every dollar is much appreciated. And anyway, thank you all that have contributed to the Gas and Tires Fund, and I'm going to have a couple more sips of water and then crawl up into the rooftop tent. A few minutes later, I was snug up inside my Free Spirit Recreation 55 Evolution Series rooftop tent with the Covea heater going. Well, I'm all snugged up in my Wiggy's 20-degree sleeping bag, which should keep me plenty warm tonight. If not, I've got a whoopee laying down there. I was looking forward to the next day of adventure, but at that point, I had no idea how many amazing artifacts and cool places I was going to end up seeing that next day. Good morning, guys. Well, I'm just having my coffee, slept really good. Just gonna sip a little coffee here in the tent, staying nice and warm by the heater, and then we'll get out there. It actually looks like it's a little cloudy, but anyway, I'm just enjoying being in here, staying warm with the heater, and in a couple of minutes we'll crawl out there, get some breakfast, and start breaking camp, and we're gonna head on to see some other cool stuff. Well, guys, here's the thing. It looks like we might have some rain coming in. The forecast called for a little bit. The clouds are starting to dense up there. Not too bad yet. I bet we got a little bit of time, but the one thing is, man, we do not want to be out on this alkali flat if we get very much rain, man. This stuff just turns into a disaster. So I think we're going to have to kind of hurry through breakfast here and get gear packed up. I'll probably pop down the rooftop tent first, just because that's better to do before it gets wet. Once I do that, everything else only takes me like 5 minutes to throw in, so I'm not too worried about it, but would like to get some breakfast going here. God, it's just gorgeous when that sun comes out, though. Man, just an incredible view out here in front of us. Breakfast this morning, pretty down and dirty simple. I've got the other half of those potatoes, those garlic potatoes that I made up last night. I've got some really nice handmade pork breakfast sausages and some eggs. So, all right, I popped my rooftop tent down. I got some sausage going. Give that sausage just another minute or two, and then I'll throw some potatoes in there, and then the last thing will be the eggs. Boy, I tell you guys, I know I say this all the time, but as long as I live, I'll never get over how incredible it is waking up in the middle of a remote, empty place like this. We're gonna go on. I want to find that toxic waste dump and scout around that homestead a little bit, but since we're already here, I think we have to hike around in this area and maybe we can find some old military stuff. All right, looks like that's about done. All right, nothing like a delicious breakfast. I got a fresh iced coffee right there. Have a little bit more of this spicy mustard on it. This is a good hearty breakfast for out here. But what's most incredible is this view out here while I'm eating breakfast. Just amazing. Yeah, we'll take a little walk around here, but I'm actually kind of anxious to get out of camp, and I really want some time to check out that area around that toxic waste dump. All right, well, had a good breakfast. I'm just going to grab a couple little pieces of survival gear. Make sure that I always have on me a good knife. Obviously, my Glock 19X. Take a pair of gloves and a water bottle, and yeah, we'll be good to go. So let's go explore around here a little bit. So out there behind us is the greater lake area, and where I want to walk back into is these dunes back here. And what we're mainly looking for outside of Native American artifacts is any kind of military stuff. So we might find what I love finding is I love finding the 50 cal shell casings or bullets out here. All these little gullies in here were great places to find Indian artifacts. In fact, look at this right here. So that is, I don't know if the glare is catching it right, but that is a worked piece of obsidian. So that is definitely a Native American artifact laying down in here. Now I think the light's right. I just wanted to show you guys this. See those trails there? Those are jackrabbit trails. So if you were out here in a survival situation, setting up snares along those trails would be a pretty good bet. All right, we're up in some of those dunes. Man, they just go on forever out there. Look at that. Be pretty easy to get lost out here. So what we're doing is we're taking that mountain right there as kind of one of our viewpoints, and then that butte right over there is another one, and we know about right in between them is the line where our camp is. So we're using terrain association for to keep our bearings out here and navigate. Interesting little formation there in front of us. A little alluvial fan. It's kind of cool how the water running down it makes that. Always kind of reminds me of a brain. All right, guys, I think I spotted something. Tell me when you see it. See it right now? Look, I'm just looking at a shape that's a little bit different. Does not look natural. Huh. Look at that. That, my friends, is a 50 caliber shell casing that has been laying out here in the desert for a long time. So what would a 50 caliber shell casing be doing out here in the middle of this godforsaken country? Well, back around World War II, like the 1940s, this area out here was, for the vast majority of it, was completely uninhabited. What's interesting is this country was homesteaded a little bit. During the homestead era, and up until about the 1920s. But what happened was, when it was originally homesteaded, was after there had been a series of rather wet years, and they were able to grow kind of dryland grains and things like that. Well, then the climate patterns changed, went back to a more normal climate pattern, and everybody pretty much dried up and starved out that was trying to make a go of homesteading out here. So by the mid-1920s, this was completely abandoned. The few scattered dryland homesteaders that had been out here, totally gone. And basically at that point, this was just a big, huge deserted area, which made a perfect area for them to fly fighter pilot missions, bombing missions, things like that back and forth across. So they used it a lot all over this country way back in the day. What do we got there? Oh my God, look at this. So there's two of them. Check this out. One right there. And look how it's just sitting on top of the soil. But what's even cooler is that's not even the one I saw. The one I saw is right here. One. Where's that other one at? Two. So that's 3 50 cal shells that I found right out within, probably a quarter of a mile of each other. So we're gonna grid back and forth in here and see if we can find some more. Oh guys, okay, this is so cool. Check this out. This one, this is now the bullet. That is an armor-piercing 50 cal round. We're definitely in an area where there was some pretty good activity out here. So, man, really wanted to move on, check out that toxic waste dump, but I think we got to comb this area in here a little bit more. Check this out, another one. All right, now we're getting into some fresher dunes here. Another one, I believe. Yep, another 50 cal bullet. Love finding these bullets. I'd like to find a bomb casing. I haven't seen one of those out here yet. I have on some of the other bombing ranges that I hunt, but I'd like to find some out here. I should probably bring my metal detector out here at some point. That would help me get a read on what's underneath the soil. Look at this. That's a steel jacketed bullet. All right, the wind's coming up. I just saw this, what I thought was, oh yeah, it actually is a chunk of obsidian, really old one. And then right down behind it, another 50 cal bullet. It's like we're coming up to another little alkali flat here. So interesting, just this little depression out here that's probably in normal years a pretty significant little spring. Oh yeah, look at this. It's been a spring for a long time because there's artifacts in here. Flakes, not a drop of water in it now. All right, well, I've been seeing a few little chips around, but nothing interesting. And then look right here. Almost complete. It's just missing one ear off of that side and the tip. Huh, pretty cool. Put that right back down there for the next person to find. We'll see what else we can find in here. So check this out, in every low spot out here, there's just chips and chips. These are all left over from tool making. That almost looks like a piece of pottery. That rock, really smooth right there. It's probably some kind of a grinding stone. Just picked up this nice tip. It's beautiful work. All right, I think we might have something here. Ah, heartbreaker. Missing the tip and that tiny little lower ear. Oh, all right. See what else we can find here. Oh, crap, guys. I think I got another one here. This one might be the nicest one yet. Look at that. All right, well, the wind's starting to kick up a little bit and the clouds are darkening up slowly but surely. So I think what we're gonna do at this point is just start hauling butt and back to the Jeep, and then we'll load up camp, head off to next site will be the toxic waste dump. Throw our camp together really quick, and looks like the ready light's all charged up from just sitting here in the sun, so that's pretty good. It's not even full sun, but it's fully charged up. All right, camp's all buttoned up. I'm really liking, I made some adjustments to my setup and I went simplified it a little bit, and now I'm back down to that like 5-10 minutes setup and tear down. Really nice. Chair, table, food box. And that's about it. Ready light, since I used that last night, but other than that, man, it's really easy. All right, we just got a short little drive, about a mile or so, and then we'll be at the side of the that toxic waste dump. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about the history of it when we're walking around out there. All right, so I don't know if the wind noise is going to let you guys hear anything I'm saying, but we're about ready to head off and walk over and see if we can find this chemical waste disposal site. All right, we're approaching the site, and this is interesting. So I'm thinking this right here is probably some kind of a monitoring well. A big old chunk of metal right there. I think it's a military antenna. So there's where they had it guy wired into the ground. 1, 2, and then look at this. There's where the guy wire's hooked into it. So, and there's the top. Yeah, Black Pearl Voyager, if you guys haven't watched his YouTube channel or Instagram, check it out. But Black Pearl Voyager, you should be able to tell me what kind of antenna this is. It's probably about 25-30 feet tall. Got a couple of little, looks like attachments on the side. Very interesting. It's like a little piece of concrete right there. And there is that chemical disposal site out there. And it's funny, I can smell something that smells kind of like Roundup, or yeah, that's very interesting. Look at this nasty razor wire. Dangerous chemical disposal area. Keep out. Back in about 1960 or so, I think they started dumping this out here. And the company that dumped it out here was a company that was also producing Agent Orange for the Viet Nam War effort at the time. Most of the descriptions of this waste out here just say that it's a byproduct of defoliating agent, things like that. They use some really benign terms, but what's interesting is all the military history out across here. See, look here, all these boards. Makes me wonder if there was something else going on, but that company was an Oregon-based company and they were producing Agent Orange. And they brought 25,000 50-gallon drums out here and basically just stacked them in rows out across the desert out here. And that was like around 1960 or so. And then about 1970, it was discovered that the barrels were leaking and a lot of them had corroded or rusted through, and they were just basically leaking liquid out into the desert. So how about that? Back in that era, when they wanted to dispose of toxic waste, they just brought it out here in the middle of the desert, stacked 50-gallon drums right on the surface of the ground, and that was all there was to it. They didn't really think about much else. They just stacked it and left it to forget about it. So the solution was, in about 1970s, they came out here with a bulldozer and they dug trenches about 2 to 3 feet deep. And then they pushed all of the 50-gallon drums in these parallel trenches, and then they buried them. So they covered them up with another about 2 to 3 feet worth of soil. In a perfect world, they would have buried them a lot deeper, but they couldn't dig any deeper than that out here because the groundwater is only about 3 to 6 feet down. So that was the solution, is they took a big bulldozer, they dug shallow trenches 2 to 3 feet deep, and they basically bulldozed all of the 50-gallon drums into those trenches, and then they drove over them and crushed them up. And basically that's how they disposed of it. So to make a long story short, all of that toxic waste is right out here, right underneath the soil right there. Now, in the 90s they came out, and you see these berms right here. In the 90s they came out and they put some more dirt on top of each of those trenches. And I think the reason they did that, and you can see they put rock there too, and the reason they did that was to keep the soil from getting carried away. But about 3 feet below ground level right there, there's 25,000 50-gallon drums that once were full of toxic waste that now probably has all leaked out into the soil. There's probably not much harm in walking around here a little bit, but you probably wouldn't want to camp next to that and be breathing a lot of this dust and everything, because there is, well, I want to say it was like over 1 million gallons of chemicals. So you take 50 gallons times 25,000, that's the reported number of 50-gallon drums, and who knows how much else they just bulk dumped out here. It's just interesting that the thought process back in those days was just out of sight, out of mind, and this was just considered such god-awful remote country that nobody wanted anything to do with, that it just seemed like the perfectly normal thing to do, to stack barrels full of hazardous chemicals out here. Wonder if those are some sample jars right there. I think that might be another makeshift antenna. No writing on it. Oh, there's another one right up there. Helping the world to grow. Interesting. Better living through chemicals, huh? Yeah, I wonder if I'm down off this place where the banks eroded away, and there's a couple of drums in here. I wonder if these drums were buried and then they've been uncovered by this bank eroding away. All right, here's another one of these. Talk about strange things in the desert. If anybody knows what that is, it's about 6 feet tall. It almost, again, looks like some kind of homemade antenna. But that's the second one I've stumbled across. And I don't know why they'd be out here, except something to do with the military when it was doing all of its exercises and top secret stuff out here. All right, on to the next spot. Well, it's been quite the adventure. We didn't get to look around that one homestead that I really wanted to hit, but we got our other goals for the trip. We got to take a look at that piece of land. We got to find some old military artifacts, and we got to find that toxic waste dump. And we did get to peck around one homestead a little bit. So all in all, it was a pretty good trip, but I'm about ready to hit the pavement. And from then it'll be a couple hours back home. I don't know if I see anything interesting, I'll stop along the way, but as always, I hope y'all enjoyed joining me for this little adventure. I know I sure enjoyed having you along. I look forward to your comments, your questions. As always, I appreciate your support, and above all else, I'll just look forward to seeing you on my next adventure. Until then, Coyote Works, out.